Hello, friends, and welcome to the Marble and Sand podcast, a podcast for health and wellness with a focus on vegan lifestyles and vegan eating. I'd like to start off today, the first episode, talking about my journey with veganism and how I came to be vegan today. So in 2011, I saw the documentary Food Inc. on Netflix, and it was a very inferial, I guess that's the right word, experience, kind of out of this world experience, where I was able to get a look in how our food is processed and made. I think one of the things that really took me by surprise too was learning about the manure that cows create and how that has an effect on the environment, because cows' manure emits methane gas. On the flip side, the manure does make good fertilizer. I've seen documentaries on that as well. And you're able to use the manure to grow like really awesome and nutritious fruits and vegetables. But on the bad side, you have all of these animals herded together, cows and livestock, and their manure, their feces, is being depleted in the soil that's there, and sometimes it would seep into the drinking water in the nearby communities. So I think that the industrialized farming industry is what first spoke to me and made me want to become vegetarian in 2011. The journey to veganism was a very long road. I would say that becoming vegetarian was really a culture shock for me. Although previously in my youth, I never really consumed too much meat. I really only ate chicken and fish for the most part. I did eat pork up until being 16, but then I felt guilty about eating the pigs and I gave up bacon. And that was the only pork product I ate, bacon and hot dogs. So I decided to give up bacon at 16, and that was pretty easy. So I do think for me, veganism has been sort of a lifelong journey, and it's definitely something that I've always felt that I guess is a part of me, because I always have had a compassion for animals and loving animals and wanting to take care of them. As a child, I would feed stray cats on the street, and I've always just loved being around animals. And whenever I see people out and about with their pets, it just makes me feel so happy seeing them. And I guess in my worldview, if you truly do love animals, it would be hard to eat them. Now, of course, part of the natural world is that animals do eat animals. You know, big fish in the sea eat smaller fish, and lions and tigers hunt to eat, and that's part of the natural way those animals get their food and nutrients. And, you know, cats are natural predators. So, to some degree, I think being hunters and gatherers is part of being a human being. But I believe that humans have evolved so much over the course of millennia, even longer than that, many millennia, that we have empathy. And I believe that other animals and creatures don't have that empathetic sensibility, at least not like humans do. So now let's go back again to 2011. I'm watching all these Netflix documentaries and YouTube videos on health and well-being and the environment. So I also was doing research on the farming practices of fruits and vegetables, because even some of those practices are bad for the environment. So, for example, a lot of different crops, in particular soybeans and corn, and that was also discussed in Food Inc., are detrimental to the soil. And the soil is what provides nutrients to the fruits and vegetables that we eat. So if the soil is diminished, and that's what corn and soybeans do, since they're so overcropped or overfarmed and then overcropped, they deplete all of the nutrients in the soil so that nothing else can grow there. So if you wanted to, let's say, grow potatoes in the future, or grow tomatoes, or grow any other vegetable that works for that climate that you're in, you wouldn't be able to, because the soybeans and corn have kind of eroded that entire area that you're in. So I said I was going to stop eating soybean products. Then I decided to look at other grains that we consume. And I looked at wheat, and I did some research on wheat and found that wheat actually has more gluten in it than it did in the 1950s, due to how they create all these hybrid plants and genetically modified seeds. And for some reason, bread today has twice or 3 times as much gluten as bread in the 1950s. So I did some research on gluten. Now, this was in 2011, so it was before gluten-free was really a thing. And I was having some digestive issues. So I said, okay, I'm going to try to remove gluten from my diet and see how that works. Now, I did not see a doctor about it or anything. It was just something I wanted to try for myself. And I noticed that when I went shopping, at grocery stores, like here in Chicago area, we have Jewel Osco, and back then we had Dominick's, which is owned by Safeway, but it's no longer here. Now we have Mariano's. But I noticed at the grocery stores, they had like these really small gluten-free sections where you can get gluten-free cookies and pastries and, all of these things. So I pretty much ate like that from 2011 until about 2018. So I noticed over that 7-year period, my weight fluctuated a lot, actually. And I believe it was due to the sugar consumption. As a child, I always struggled with weight management. When I was 14, a freshman in high school, I became a part of this children's youth weight loss program at La Rabita's Children's Hospital in Chicago, where we had to create food logs every day. Our goal was to lose half a pound to a pound a week. And our diet was 1,500 calories and 20 grams of fat. And since I'm very meticulous and I love counting, I did find success with that. But over the years, you're like, you don't stick to your diet regimen. It's not like you want to eat 1,500 calories every single day. It's not something that's realistic. So I think that's what led me to eventually becoming vegetarian and gluten-free and soy-free, was because I wanted a way to eat and feel good and not have to count calories as much. So now let's go to 2018, and this is towards the end of 2018. And I'm weighing over 200 pounds, and I'm feeling tired and lethargic, and none of my clothes are fitting properly, and I'm just wanting to be more healthy and to just feel better. So I decided to start counting calories again, and I noticed that I was consuming about 2,700 calories a day. And on average, women need about 1,800 to 2,000. It does depend on your body type, your bone structure, your height, everything like that, the length of your arms, the width or the length, or is it circumference? Yeah, maybe it is. Going back to math there, of your wrist to the size of your wrist, how many calories that you need. So I decided to download the Fitbit app, which is my absolute favorite app for tracking calories and food. And I got myself a Fitbit Alta HR. So it's a Fitbit that tracks your heart rate. It automatically recognizes your exercises. It tells you how many calories you burn throughout the day. All you do is input your weight and height, and that you're a woman or a man, and it gives you all of that awesome information. So I realized, okay, I'm burning about 20 to 2,300 calories a day. So if I'm eating 2,700 calories a day, then every day I'm eating 400 extra calories. Over weeks, months, years, that adds up to pounds, because a pound is 3,500 calories. I learned that while being in the Fit Matters program that I spoke about earlier at Laura Beta's Children's Hospital. So in 2019, I decided that I wanted to stop eating dairy and cheese, because I felt like I was just eating it too much, that I was craving it a lot. So I did some research on dairy and cheese and found that it just didn't make sense to consume it. Humans are the only species that are eating dairy products, milk from an animal, past infancy. As children, as babies, we consume our mother's breast milk, which is what we're supposed to do, and that's natural. But as we get older, we still consume milk from the breast of a cow. And when you think about it, that doesn't really make much sense. I believe maybe during the early onset of the agricultural age, maybe it made sense to herd cattle and raise cows because so many people needed protein and calcium. There were a lot of deficiencies that human beings had. But now with technology, we have so many options to get all the calcium and vitamin D and nutrients we need. We don't really need to get it from cows. And then that also goes back to the documentary Food Inc., where it talks about how those cows are actually, us farming them is leading to harmful repercussions to the environment. So in my head, and just collecting all that information, it made sense to give up those dairy and cheese products. So it was hard at first, but I did do it. And one of my favorite dairy alternatives is the Miyoko's cheese. That's something that I really enjoyed. I put it on like gluten-free pizza crust with veggies and tomato sauce, maybe some Beyond sausage. I love the Beyond Italian sausage. And then there's a delicious pizza right there. So that was one of the first alternatives I implemented. And also drinking almond milk and oat milk. That it actually tastes more delicious to me in coffee and in recipes than actual cow's milk. You know, now like when I smell dairy or I'm around cheese products, they're not even appetizing to me any longer. So it's definitely something that I think is ingrained in us. Like, we're supposed to eat meat. Meat has protein. We're supposed to drink milk. Milk has calcium and vitamin D. But really, those are things that were given to us by those particular industries, the dairy industry and the meat industry. And those are just marketing tactics that are used to sell their products. Because the truth is, you can get all of those vitamin and nutrients from plants and vegetables. So now it's 2019 going into 2020. Little did Mia of 2019 know what was going to be in store for her for 2020. I don't think any of us knew. But I then decided that I also wanted to stop consuming eggs. So this was in March of last year. And I thought about it, and it was kind of similar to the reasons why I gave up eating dairy. I thought, well, now the only animal product I'm consuming is eggs. And then when I would be out and about and I would tell people about my diet before giving up eggs, they would say, oh, so you're vegan. I would tell them I don't eat dairy, I don't eat meat. But then I would say, no, I eat eggs. And they would ask, well, why do you eat eggs? And then so constantly being asked that proposition made me rethink, well, why do I eat eggs? So I had discovered this product by Just, and they're a very innovative company. And they have an egg scramble. So I bought it, gave it a try. And I was like, wow, this is great. It tastes just like eggs. I was so skeptical at first because it was like, how do you substitute eggs? There's so many meat substitution products out there, especially with companies like Beyond and Impossible. But I had yet to think that you can mimic eggs, because eggs to me just have that sort of unique egginess about them, with the sulfur and the creaminess and the fat. But the company Just was able to mimic it. So I said, this product is great, so I'm just going to become vegan now, because if I have a taste for eggs, I can just use this. And I do want to focus on eating more whole foods. So I decided to eat more whole proteins like quinoa and oatmeal and beans, peas, lentils, other legumes, which also are great sources of protein. My favorite thing is to just throw all vegetables in the skillet. So I just buy up a bunch of frozen plain vegetables in the freezer aisle, and I get some olive oil cooking spray, or I've been using avocado oil cooking spray. I just put them all in the skillet, like, oh, let me get a bag of these, mixed red peppers, and let me get a bag of some cauliflower rice, and let me get some beans or peas or lentils, sauteed in a skillet. Add your garlic powder, onion powder, Himalayan pink salt, which is my favorite salt to eat. I don't eat other salts. And add some white pepper, black pepper, chili pepper. I love seasoning. And saute it up and eat it. There's a meal. So I think just eating more whole foods this past year has been wonderful for me. I feel like I am sleeping better. I feel like I do have more energy. I feel more motivated, which is interesting considering everything that has gone on this year. This past year has really tested our wits and our strength. And I think we may have a tendency to put our health and well-being on the back burner. But I found that just trying different lifestyle changes to my diet and how I think, becoming more mindful, has really helped me stay positive throughout this year. You know, it's been difficult navigating through the pandemic. But I believe if we focus our energies on just how we can be better humans, how we can connect more with nature, animals, and our loved ones, other people, then we truly can have a wonderful life experience. So now I've been vegan for almost a year. It's been an amazing journey, just learning more and more. And I believe that's why I wanted to start this podcast. I just wanted to give people an insight into veganism. And not only that, also how we can use mindfulness and other, I guess to say, peaceful ideologies to connect with our mind, our body, and our spirit, because how we eat is just one aspect, but we have to figure out why we eat a certain way, what causes us to crave certain foods. Some people are emotional eaters. At a time when I did gain weight between 2011 and 2018, I do believe that had to do with craving more sugary foods to make us feel good, because I was going through certain things during that time. So it's important to just sit and think and meditate every day, maybe for about 10 minutes or 15 minutes, to find what is causing us or causing ourselves to think a certain way, to have a certain relationship about food. And then also educate ourselves on the sources of the food and where it comes from. It's so important to know ingredients of the things that we put in our bodies, because everything is connected here. And that's what I want to share with you all. So thank you for listening to episode 1 of Marble and Sand, a health and wellness podcast with an emphasis on veganism, and I will see you next time.